Over quarantine, SeaWorld had to change its name to SeaWorld Zoological in order to have a small reopening. Although this change did allow them to reopen, it mainly focused the purpose of SeaWorld to educational purposes and conservative efforts. It is these purposes that are often overlooked and ignored when thinking of what a zoo is today, as much of the population has begun to shift their perspective on what animals are in zoos, captives instead of their attendant roles as ambassadors. Over the past few weeks, I have done research on the pros and cons of zoos, as well as how they benefit both humans and animals. My aunt works at SeaWorld, which has given me opportunities in the past to witness caretakers of animals at work. From my experience, these caretakers care a great amount for the animals under their supervision, and they work daily towards their mission of helping animals across the globe. It is through this research and experience that it becomes apparent that zoos are beneficial for animal conservative efforts, through their education, awareness, and through their programs. The high extinction rate is mostly due to our own practices, thus making it our responsibility to combat it, something of which comes in the form of zoos. There is no doubt that some zoos have inhumane practices, but it would be wrong to assume that all zoos have these flaws. Many animals suffer because of our actions and influence, acts that drive zoos in similar efforts to conserve animals. The current extinction rate is at an alarming rate. According to panda.org, approximately 0.01% to 0.1% of all species go extinct every year. To put this in perspective, recent estimates made by scientists estimate that there are around 8.7 million species on Earth. There are definitely way more species than that, but for the purpose of this example, let's just assume that there are only that many. After doing some math, we will find that we may be losing a minimum of 870 species and up to 8,700 species every year. These numbers are insanely large. In fact, they are unnatural, as the current extinction rate is nearly 1,000 to 10,000 times greater than it naturally should be. This does not only cause problems for animals, but it also threatens humans. As species die off, the food chain itself is altered, an alteration that alone could cause more species to go extinct while also threatening human food supplies. Why is the extinction rate so high, you may ask? Well, there are many answers to that question, but the most prevalent one is climate change. Climate change interferes with the behavioral patterns of animals, ranging from their feeding patterns to their migrations, something which can be detrimental. Climate change also threatens the natural habitats of these species, forcing them out of their homes. This shock causes species to die off, as animals are only adapted to their natural habitat, while being unable to quickly adapt to unfamiliar environments. The introduction of invasive species also causes the extinction rate to be high, as invasive species can feed on non-invasive animals in an unsustainable manner. No matter what the problem is, we are at the root of each one. It is our unsustainable habits and our exploitation of resources that cause climate change. Invasive species travel across the earth through our own ships, planes, and vessels. Our actions cause many animals to suffer daily, some to the extent that they may become extinct. Thus, it is only natural that it is our responsibility to reverse the effects that our actions have had on the environment and animals. These are the problems that zoos address and combat, but what are all the accusations regarding zoos? There are many claims that zoos are inhumane and are driven by greed. One of the main claims focuses on the welfare of animals. According to BBC, although the health of animals within zoos may prove to be better than those in the wild, the welfare of those animals is noticeably poor. Much of this is owed to the fact that these animals are forced into an environment that their species is not accustomed to. Their new environment is much more confined and different, considering the fact that they are not able to freely roam and that they largely depend on humans for their survival. This forces them to imprint on humans rather than to have their natural tendencies that they would possess in the wild. This is seen as a means of domestication for the purposes of money and entertainment. Of course, at this point, it'd be right to claim that animals are not at the center of the focus of zoos. Poor animal welfare also ties into a poor quality of life. This is not the same as the length of their life, for the length of their life simply describes how long they lived for, while the quality of the life seeks to describe how enjoyable it was from the perspective of the animal. According to animalquality.org, animals can experience depression, and it can become noticeable in animals who are confined to the walls of their exhibit. This, of course, is a terrible thing. In animals, it can cause them to become easily frustrated and more provocative, making it difficult for them to live with others of their own species. Because of this, zoos by some people are seen as inhumane because they believe that they are solely established for the benefit of humans. As a result, people are inclined to boycott zoos and ensure that they are discontinued. Although some of these claims are true, they fail to acknowledge that zoos can evolve to ensure a greater quality of life for animals. They also fail to recognize the benefits of zoos. We should continue to attend zoos and support their cause because they greatly benefit species. Much of the good that comes out of zoos is in their programs. There are many programs in place that help bring animals back from the brink of extinction. Our local San Diego Zoo and Safari Park was actually involved in one of these programs. The California condor was near extinction with only 22 left in the wild. The San Diego Zoo took the initiative in saving the species through mating programs. Many people worried that the animals would imprint on the humans rather than their parents, but they took every precaution to ensure that they would exhibit natural behavior. There are now over 500 California condors. There are some zoos that exhibit terrible practices, but those zoos can evolve. According to The Voice of San Diego, Blackfish was a film that exposed SeaWorld's terrible handling of orcas. Ever since then, SeaWorld announced that this will be the last generation of orcas they will have. This proves that zoos can evolve to become more ethical. Of course, SeaWorld still dealt great injustices, but that should not overrule the good they still did. Not only are they a park, they also rescue and rehabilitate animals with the intention of releasing them back into the wild. So, after all this information and consideration, it becomes evident that zoos are beneficial for animals as they help rescue species from extinction. Some zoos do treat their inhabitants terribly, but we shouldn't let that stop other zoos from making a huge difference. Rather, we need to ensure that zoos remain ethical by exposing inhumane actions. And who knows, that may happen on your next trip to the San Diego Zoo or anywhere else.